Hello friends, see you again in our 2021's thriller movie collection, Stowaway. This is a beautiful and touching story about how humanity and empathy are still in human hearts, even when they have to be faced with death. Just before we start the journey with this great movie, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss the updates from our channel. The movie starts with the launch of a rocket called Kingfisher to Mars, which brings 3 people inside. It should take them 2 years to get to Mars, and while they are in the cabin, they check everything there before making contact with Hyperion on Earth. In this contact, each of them retells their own story before joining in the space mission. For the commander, this should be the 3rd and last mission to space. While for Zoe, she starts this as a joke, but then Hyperion accepts her to be part of the mission. As a researcher, she focuses on finding breakthroughs for the medical world while on this mission. While for the only male member in this mission, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He works on research to maintain and sustain life on Mars for the long term. Even though he should live far from his wife for 2 years, he still takes this chance. It should be a peaceful 2 years for them, but reality speaks louder for them. This starts when the commander finds blood on the floor, which comes from the life support cabin. When she opens the cabin, a man's body crushes on her hand. Because of this incident, there's a hole in that cabin and for now, the commander closes it up. While Zoe and her friend treat the man's wound, the commander finds his badge on the floor. The commander calls people on Earth to inform them about what happened. She asks whether he's dangerous for them. From them, she gets information that his name is Michael Adams and that he's one of the launch support members. The rupture at the cabin before happens in CDRA, which connects to the breathing mask in the exercising room. Because the CO2 level is increasing, they cannot use this mask for now. The commander also injures her hand, and it should take 6 weeks to get it back to normal. It's night, and Michael wakes up from his coma and he looks around the ship. That's when he sees that the ship has taken off. He panicked and Zoe and other crew members came to him. Zoe tries to calm him down and also check his condition. After that, the commander, Maria Barnett, asks him some questions. After finding out that the rocket is launched and he's inside it, he's quite flustered. He wants to come back to his sister, but they can't do it. The rocket won't come back before 2 years' time. When they have dinner, Michael comes and says he's sorry for the ruckus before. He's willing to help everything he can on the ship. David and Zoe talk about what they can give Michael to do before sleep. And the next day, Zoe takes Michael around the ship and explains things to him. While they're seeing the Earth from the ship, Zoe asks about his sister. Her name is Ava and there are only 2 of them in the family. The next day, Michael is seen doing data entry for David. They also talk about David's hobby of listening to jazz while doing an experiment. On the other side of the ship, Zoe is getting ready to get in the CDRA cabin. Because the commander's hand is injured, she can't get in. And so Zoe does the fixing while the commander leads her outside. When she opens the cable's cover, she sees that everything is scorched. She takes a picture and sends it to the commander. The commander then contacts Hyperion to send the pictures she gets. She needs them to do an inspection on those. It might be dangerous for their mission, so she needs it to be done as soon as possible. She then calls out to David to talk. She asks about the oxygen that David Petrie can produce in a day. Also whether he can increase it for them. Actually, David can produce oxygen as much as the commander asks, but unfortunately, all the tools he needs have already been sent to Mars before. David then proposes to grow parts of the algae to get enough oxygen for them. The rest will be brought to Mars as their mission entails. The commander tells David to keep this from Zoe and Michael for now. David then does an experiment on his algae, while Zoe and Michael are taking off the CDRA. This strenuous work opens up Michael's wound, and Zoe offers to stitch it. When Michael opens his shirt to let Zoe stitches his wound, Zoe finds an old wound on Michael's chest and stomach, but she just lets it go. The commander is talking to David. She wants David to grow all of his algae, but he disagrees. Some of the algae should be planted on Mars, and that's his lifetime mission. Unfortunately, that won't be possible since the CDRA cannot be fixed. This is a heavy blow for David. Even if he actually doesn't want this to happen, he still has to do it. They need oxygen, and the algae should be sacrificed. Full of regret, David cuts all of his first experiments to start growing algae instead. Meanwhile, Michael is contacting Ava, his sister, at the moment. He said he's happy that Hyperion takes good care of her. Even though he doesn't want things to end this way, he thinks that all of this is the best thing to happen to them both. Sadly, only Michael thinks this way since David is not in the right position. His second batch of algae died. The commander and David are stressed because of this. After getting this result, the commander calls Jim from Hyperion. It seems that the only way to survive is to send a pilot from the ship to Mars to grow algae there. She wants to take David's place, but it will be impossible since only David knows about this experiment. Maria then talks to both David and Zoe. She explains the condition and the solution they can take is to leave Michael outside of the ship. Zoe disagrees with this, she wants to look for another solution. So the commander gives her 10 days and tells both of them not to tell Michael anything. David looks reluctant at first, but since both of them agree to this, he also accepts it. Michael is having a meal with David. He starts a small talk about David's project, but his response is just lukewarm. Maria is trying to talk to Jim about the 10 days they take to save Michael. Of course, he doesn't agree with this because Michael is a ticking bomb. His existence is a danger to their oxygen supply. But Maria still insists on her decision since her team needs this. 3 days after that, David asks Maria about Hyperion's decision on Michael. But she says that Hyperion still doesn't have another solution to save Michael. David then says that if they take time longer then it will be harder to make the final decision. This makes Maria think things over. On the other side, Michael is with Zoe. She helps him to dress his wound. While dressing Michael's wound, Zoe once again steals a peek at Michael's burn wound. Michael feels her look and tells her that he got that wound from an apartment fire. He got that wound before his dad saved him and his sister. Unfortunately, his dad can't make it. This story makes Zoe feel guilty about Michael. At night, David is taking something while everyone's sleeping. He then meets Michael and asks him to talk. He then tells Michael about everything and gives him something to kill himself. He says sorry to Michael and leaves after that. Michael is crying and holding the bracelet that her sister gives him. He takes the thing given by David and considers taking his life. He then leaves a message for Ava as a goodbye. Zoe is walking on the ship and she sees Michael, then she calls him. Michael doesn't respond to her and then she sees an injection on the floor. She says that Michael doesn't have to do this. But Michael feels that this is an impossible thing. She tells Michael a story and convinces him to not kill himself. Zoe then barges into David's place and questions him about Michael. This makes David angry and he also starts accusing Zoe. Zoe then leaves David. This episode makes Zoe fire up. She tells Michael to go to the oxygen tank outside which contains oxygen used for launching the rocket. Because the oxygen they have in the ship is only enough for 2 people. Finally, Zoe and David are getting ready to climb the tether to get the oxygen and transfer it to the canister they bring. The commander gives them direction on how to do it. Michael also helps David to get ready. When David is about to say sorry to Michael, he stops it. There goes David and Zoe outside the ship. The commander guides them from inside the ship. She reminds them not to climb the power tether because there will be electricity there. They start to climb on the tether. On the way, David needs a rest and they take a little time to rest. Zoe tells David not to use his upper body too much. As they get higher, the gravity is getting lighter. That makes them able to leave the climber tools and start to climb by floating and holding the tether. When they get to half the point, the commander starts to have their visual from the ship. She advises them to take their time and start when they are really ready. It will be a disaster if they lose their focus and breaks the solar panel. It will make them lose the power for their entire ship. Zoe then starts to climb around the tether on the side of the solar panel. When Zoe is in the position, she tells David to let go of the tether and she will pull him. Now they are going down to the Kingfisher. The gravity starts to pull them down and they hook the tools back on the tether and controlled the gravity with it. And they land successfully on the Kingfisher. They need to climb down the Kingfisher to get to the oxygen tank. Zoe will climb down the rocket and David helps her from above. When she gets on the tank, she opens the lid and it falls down. Quite scary since it was lost in space. Zoe holds herself together and goes into the alley. The commander guides her from the ship. After connecting the cylinder with the tank, Zoe then checks how much oxygen they have there. Thankfully, it's enough to fill in 2 cylinders that they bring there. The commander then instructs David to bring down the cylinder. After that, they fill in their cylinders with oxygen from inside the tank. When they start refilling their second cylinder, a warning sign warns them of the upcoming solar storm. They only have 20 minutes before it happens. The commander instructs them to come back now. Zoe wishes to wait for the cylinder to be filled since it's for Michael, but they have no time. So she leaves it behind. On the way back to the ship, Zoe can't hook the tool to the tether and she moves too fast. She then falls down on the deck and the cylinder is falling down to the space. David then comes to Zoe and Zoe tells him that the cylinder is gone. They see it goes down there, but they can do nothing. So they leave it and get back to the ship. In the ship, they talk about getting back to the tank and getting the other cylinder there back to be able to save 3 people in the ship. Unfortunately, the storm will last for hours. And that's bad news for them. In this situation, Michael volunteers himself to get outside, but no one will let him since he doesn't even get trained for it. Zoe and David then say at the same time that they will do it, but then Zoe insists that it's her who should go. When David tries to stop her, she said that he should make it back alive, has a kid, and enrolls his kid in her alma mater, Yale. They kind of know that this will be goodbye, so each of them starts to cry and watch Zoe get outside there. This solar storm is dangerous since the radiation in it can kill people. But Zoe braves herself out there to get the oxygen cylinder back to the ship. When she successfully gets the cylinder back, she sees the commander inside from the glass window. They seem to have silent communication there. Zoe leaves the cylinder in the ship and she closes the door back up. She sits down there and starts to bleed from all of her body. Her spacesuit corrodes while she sits there, seeing the Earth from where she is. Her opening live cam to Hyperion is played back, remembering how this starts as a joke for her and how she sacrifices her life for the people inside the ship. And that is the end of this Stowaway movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell to keep the updates from our channel. See you in the other movie story and bye.